Welcome back, everybody, to Fly the Coop. Welcome to January 2023. I'm with Elizabeth Zobel on my team. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
I'm so excited to interview you today. I've been wanting to get you on the podcast because I love your story. And this podcast, as you know, is all about telling everyone's story to make their life easier, better, or just give them a nugget, as I say. So let's just dig right in and share with everybody who you are, where you're from, because you have a fascinating story.
Where I'm from? Well, currently I live in Minnesota.
I know.
And actually my family's originally from Minnesota. My mom grew up in St. Cloud. My parents met at the U. Mm-hmm. But that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I actually grew up in California, in Berkeley, California.
Amazing.
Yeah. And
what an amazing childhood.
And have lived actually even like through my dad's work and through my own experiences. I've lived sort of all in various places all over the country and in London and in Canada and in Germany. And so.
Wow. How did that all transpire? Like, how did that happen? Through his work?
Well, when I was a kid, we lived in London for about 10 months and then lived in Canada for about 2.5 years through his work. And then, but my parents kept their house in Berkeley because we weren't supposed to be gone that long, which was a good thing. And then lived the rest of my life in Berkeley. And then when I was a young adult, I lived in Germany for a couple of years.
Nice.
As an exchange program. And then after college too. So
wow, how fun.
Yeah.
So there is no better person to sit here and visit with us, everybody, about flying the coop than Elizabeth. My gosh. You've flown over and over and over again.
I have flown lots of coops. This is true.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
When you share those stories so you went to school in Berkeley, right?
I did not, actually. I went to Northwestern University in Evanston, Illinois. Yes.
That's an amazing program.
Yeah, it was great.
So you're a scholar. That's what I call Elizabeth on the team. Share with everybody, you were a professor.
I was. So before becoming a realtor, which was 3 years ago, actually just started in January of 2019. Mm-hmm. No, 2020.
Right at the start of COVID.
Right before COVID. And it was a great time to start.
Yeah.
And, but before that, for 30 years, I was a choral conductor. And,
wow.
Which is something you're familiar with.
Mm-hmm. My mother.
Own family.
Mm-hmm.
And in that role, really did everything from working with small children all the way up through, eventually I got my doctoral degree. And
wow.
Before we moved to Minnesota, I was a college professor at Blackburn College in Carlinville, Illinois, in central Illinois for 17 years.
That's amazing. Really, truly amazing. Because I think for anybody, especially coming into a new year, right? When they're thinking about, especially women who are mothers, that have been doing the same thing for a long time. What an inspiration to listen to this story, Elizabeth, because you leaped into something brand new, completely, really outside the box of what you were used to. So what was the motivator for you?
Oh, well, there were so many. Part of it was we had always talked about maybe moving to Minnesota. My husband's family has a lake place here. Mm-hmm. My family's from Minnesota. And we knew we didn't want to stay in central Illinois forever. Mm-hmm. And we're getting to an age where we thought, if we don't do it now,
you won't do it.
We won't do it, or it won't be possible.
We hear that all the time, by the way, when we're dealing with our clients. If we don't do this soon, we may not do it.
Right, exactly. Mm-hmm. And I knew coming here that finding another tenure track position in choral music was going to be really difficult because usually you apply for those and you go wherever the job is, which is how we ended up in Illinois in the first place.
Right.
So I started thinking about what could be the next step if I wasn't going to continue teaching and doing that and conducting. What could I do?
Right.
And actually sort of fell into it kind of backwards. I had at the same time we had been talking about, well, someday when we have enough money, we should invest in real estate. So I started listening to the Bigger Pockets podcast.
She loves podcasts, by the way.
I am a big podcast girl. And
I get all kinds of advice from Elizabeth.
And in listening to Bigger Pockets, listen to people's stories, because we talked about this. I love listening to people's stories. Yeah. That's how I connect with sort of like what to do. If I need advice, it's helpful for me to listen to people's life stories.
Right.
You know,
I agree. One of my inspirations for this is that.
Exactly. And
very
it's
inspiring.
rather than the sort of technical, like, here's what you should do. If I like listening to how do people get where they are.
And how did they stay motivated and focused and find clarity and take the pain out of it? All those things. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I heard there were a number of people on the podcast who were talking about being realtors and being investors. And I started thinking, well, maybe being a realtor would be something that could be like a way to get into the investing,
right?
And something that could be a productive next career for me. And somehow or another, so
yeah,
I found Tom Ferry.
Yeah.
And
we're both fans. We're probably the biggest fans on the team.
we're pretty big fans.
Yeah.
And started listening to his podcast and watching his YouTube videos and everything. And I thought, I think this is something that I could really do.
Right.
And so then I was looking at brokerages and things in Minnesota online and found Edina Realty and happened to like fill out a form saying, would you be a good realtor kind of thing, not knowing that I was going to get a phone call the next day.
That's the whole point of those things.
But that was how I ended up where I am. We ended up with an Edina Realty agent who helped us find our house when we moved to Minnesota. And then I spent the first few months that we were here getting licensed, and there you go.
There you go. And, the transition for you has been really fun to watch. You were an independent, trying to do this on your own. Yep. And then you started exploring the team model. Right. And that's how we ended up meeting one another. And of course,
because of Tom Ferry, by the way.
Because of Tom Ferry, right. It is true. And then, of course, we've seen quite a growth process here, even in the 18 months. And just the dynamics around how quickly real estate can change. The personalities, the shifts in social media, the way we communicate with each other. It's moving faster than I've ever seen it move before. And being able to do that together as a collaborative and as a team is super fun. And I love my time with each individual team member. And I really enjoy talking to Elizabeth because I just think your story is fascinating and you're inspiring. Yeah. So when you're dealing with the balance, because as a female, if anyone has been considering a life change or a career change and they decide they want to get into this business, what would you share with them? The good, the bad, the ugly. What would you share with them to give them some insight on behind the scenes of what that looks like?
Well, the transition of starting this career is not easy. And you really need, if we want to talk just like really brutal financials and things, you need some kind of backup. Either if you're going to start it, you need to have a lot of savings that you can live off of for a while. Or in my case, when we moved specifically knowing that my husband had a good job that we could live on at least for a while.
Right.
And that we could do that transition to me working.
It's an important part of planning, by the way.
It's a very important part.
Very real.
Because it's hard. And then because some people then end up starting their real estate careers while they're still holding on to whatever career they had before, or they're working part-time doing something else. And it's really hard. If you really want to make the real estate thing work, you have to be all in and you have to be all in.
Yeah.
But that's a financial thing because real estate takes a while to produce and to actually start making money off of it.
Funnel building, I say.
So it's not an easy transition. It's not one of those careers where you say, okay, I'm going to get this new job. You're hired and then you have a paycheck a month later.
Right. It doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't.
However, with the proper lead generation systems, if you really hit it hard and you've got several different options available to you right out of the gate, I think that's the trick of the trade, is being able to dip into all of those lead generation systems. There's a lot of them. Like on the team right now, we're probably easily dealing with 10 different ways to meet people and craft those communications and love on the people to be able to offer value and be supportive and help them through something that's really hard. Change is hard. Moving is hard.
Moving is really hard. It is. And that is one of the things that I feel like I in a way, I'm sort of blessed that I've had to go through those moves.
Yeah.
And I know I've done cross country moves and I've done local moves and
cross seas.
And that too. And so I can really understand what our clients are going through and what is involved in that whole process and how challenging that is and how overwhelming it can be, especially if you have different members of the family moving at different times, which is what we went through. My husband moved about 2 months before my daughter and I did. We were still trying to sell the old house before it
Very
was
common.
crazy.
Very common.
And so I think it's important for us as realtors to really be able to understand what our clients are going through, because it's not, for us, it is part of our job and part of our work, and we know what the process is, and it can become like, oh yeah, we know how that works and it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
But
they don't.
but for our clients, it's a huge, major life change. And it's really important. I think the successful realtors are the people who can be really sensitive to that and who can be there for their clients.
Right.
To help get them through that, because it's really not just about selling a house,
not at all
buying a house. It's about the process of getting from one home to the next home, which is a big life change.
Massive life change, which was one of the reasons as this is unfolding and creating the team, these concierge services that we offer, really taking the pain out of the process. So the gain is just a beautiful thing, and we can get people to the finish line as quickly and as painlessly as possible. That's really the entire motivation. We're so much bigger than just a real estate team. Right. The entire premise is to be able to pull really any problem-solving lever to get people through a process, regardless of whether it's local, national, or beyond. We've had so many stories that we'll be sharing over the year on so many different examples of how we can do that. With everyone's got their own story. Everyone's got their own challenge. Some people are dealing with parental. We're going to talk a little bit about aging parents and how you manage that. And we've got a team member, Kevin Coulter, the director of sales, who just moved back to Minnesota in the past year because of aging parents and needing, there's a lot of life movement right now, nationally and abroad, because of age and needing to get back to the family roots because of aging parents. We should just talk about that, because you just came back from Berkeley over the holidays, and your parents are in their 80s now, and you've got a brother who helps navigate this.
Who does, but he lives overseas.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge, because my parents are in California and I'm here in Minnesota. My brother is overseas. And so, and you see this for families all the time,
right?
You have an older parent here who's trying to deal with moving the house, and then you've got adult children who are wherever, who are trying to do that, and it's not easy.
No, it's really, really not easy. So when you are now, you're quite busy. Like, you've really done a beautiful job filling your funnel, and you're looking, and we'll just look at a listing you've got right now, right in Crocosale on Summit Avenue, and transactionally, the people that you've met and the stories that you are kind of sharing with the team as you're teaching, like problem solving. We just had one happen last night where you had a buyer for a listing you've got, and it fell through because they had a loss in the family. Right. Timing wasn't right. And how you handle that with a client in an optimistic way, and being able to take the fear out of the process, whether it's the buy side or the sell side. Share a little bit about the dynamic of that particular listing, because it's a good story.
It is. And I've been very fortunate working with these clients. They are lovely people, and they have actually already moved out of the condo, which is actually kind of nice.
Which is great.
It's a lot easier to sell something.
And stage it, by the way.
And stage it, and you can put it on Go and Show, as we talk about it in showing time when we're showing things. Agents can just get in there whenever they need to. Nobody has to move out, or nobody has to go walk the dog or anything.
There's so much of that too.
There's so much of that. Just waiting outside for the people to leave. And we recently had a great offer that came in right before the new year.
Right.
And then unfortunately our buyer had a really terrible loss, and just wasn't able to complete the sale.
Yeah.
And so we're back on the market, but a lot of this is about counseling clients and working with them and helping them to see that it's all part of the journey, and that it's going to be okay.
Right.
And it's all going to sell.
Always.
It's going to be good no
Well,
matter what. And
yeah.
in this particular case right now, I have somebody who's very, very interested who contacted me and said, I see that it's contingent, but if anything happens, can you let me know? I said, well, as a matter of fact.
Right. Well, that's a great segue on inventory right now, not only locally, nationally. I know there's a whole lot of headlining and concerns around rates and, recession conversation. But the fact of the matter is we are inventory light, and there are a lot of buyers out there.
There are.
And now that we're through those few weeks of holidays, the market is opening up. Like I would say we are in the beginning stages of our spring market here, which is super exciting for sellers. And the good news is with all of the different lines that we've got, we can turn those stones of opportunity for buyers to help them find what they're looking for. There's a lot of beautiful opportunity coming into 2023 in terms of a business model. So now that you've had a chance to really dig in, you've gone through your own personal life changes over the last year. You've got a daughter who's moving into her teenage years, so super busy, very active, cheerleader, dance, all kinds of very, very active life. How do you find the balance? Now you're really at a place where you're catching your wind, and you've got some great, you're going to have an amazing book of business this year and help a lot of people, Elizabeth.
That's the goal.
And the balance on the back end of that, raising a daughter and having your personal life balance. How do you manage that?
I would probably say that I don't always manage. I don't manage that.
You're learning
well,
though.
But I am learning. And it's important to be able to reevaluate that. So one of the things a big part of my business has been, as you know, open houses.
Right.
And doing
very
open
valuable,
houses.
by the way.
And I have been doing open houses at least 2 a weekend, like one on Saturday and one on Sunday, and sometimes 2 in a day. Mm-hmm. And I had a couple times, just as an example, storytelling.
Right.
I had a couple times in the late fall when I didn't have a Sunday open for whatever reason, and I was home and spent some time with my daughter and was just around the house being there.
Yeah.
And I realized how different it was for her when I was there, because during the week she's gone at school all week, and then I was gone all weekend. I was gone all day on Saturday and Sunday working.
Right.
And I realized this is, she only has 3 more years at home.
Yeah.
And this, me being gone all weekend, was just not functioning. And
Right.
so what I have done is I have said I'm just not going to do Sunday opens anymore, at
Right.
least unless I really have to, or unless.
And that's a choice you can make. Absolutely.
Right, exactly.
Absolutely.
And as you mentioned, she's involved in cheerleading. So she's had cheer competitions on Saturdays recently. So I have said, okay, for those weekends, I am doing opens on Sunday because I want to be there for her and be at the cheer stuff on Saturday.
Right.
So it's sort of
That's
a
smart.
trade-off. But it is important to kind of be aware of where the needs are and where your best use of time is.
Absolutely.
And that is it's a challenge, but it's something I'm working on very hard right now.
Yeah, I know you are.
And trying to sort of organize my time and make sure that I am using the time that I have well, so that I can try to find some balance.
Well, that is the beauty of this business. You can craft a schedule that'll allow you to be there for your clients and be there with your family. It's a choice to do that, to control and be a good communicator and a good time manager. And that doesn't apply just to real estate. That's just life across the board. Right. I would say anyone I talk to, regardless of what they do, whether they're a stay-at-home mom, which is a full-time job, by the way, that alone is a full-time job, ladies and gentlemen. Corporate America, even more difficult, I find, because of the heavy structure within that.
Right.
One of the beauties of this business is the fact that you can craft a schedule.
Right. We have a flexibility that people who have regular corporate type jobs
they do
can
not
never have.
No,
and
I love that.
I think for some people that's a really valuable thing, and it was true for me when I was teaching, actually, too, because I had a lot of flexibility in my teaching day.
Well, and that is an interesting thing for you, right? Because when you compare being a professor and what that looked like, and then move into this business where, because there is some infrastructure already built for you, like there's a schedule, there's a curriculum, if you will.
Right.
And so when somebody comes after many years of being in somewhat of a structured environment that operates a certain way, I would say one of the number one challenges I have when I'm talking to potential team members and or people in the industry period that have been acclimating to this business and being a full-time agent, that mass flexibility can be hard to
It absolutely
manage for them.
It can, because it's
Trick
very
of the trade.
it's very easy to sort of lose your way when you don't have that. So you have to impose the structure on yourself.
Yeah.
And you have to figure out what way works for you, because one of the things that I've learned is sometimes people will say, like, here's what you should do. And sometimes they'll come up in coaching, like you should, I'll again, a real life example.
Yeah.
Our coach, Janet Miller, who I love and who is fabulous.
Yeah, she's a huge time management person.
Is really big on time blocking, and she, will put together schedules that have, are all color coded and have like every single like time segment throughout the day,
right?
All booked out and color coded and everything. And when I look at that, it stresses me out.
Yeah.
It's too much, and it's so much. It's like sensory overload that I can't focus on that. And so what I'm doing right now is really, I've done a lot of sort of figuring out how can that work for me?
Right.
And so, as a matter of fact, just this week, I have been spending a lot of time with Asana and with my calendar and creating, like, for me, the colors, if I have one color, I have purple for home and personal things and green for work.
Yep.
And if I just have that, then I can glance at my calendar and it looks more manageable.
Right.
And it still makes sense for me, and it's functional for me. And that's the important thing, is you have to figure out, like, what is going to keep you on track, because what works for you is not going to work for somebody else, and what works for somebody else is not necessarily going to work for you.
Absolutely.
And so you have to take what other people are doing and find a way so that it works in your brain, and so that on a daily basis, when you're trying to get things done, it helps you get things done. It doesn't hinder you from getting things done.
Yeah, I think you just nailed it on the head on what the title of this podcast will be, because honestly, time management 101, it's everything.
Yeah.
And it's got to work for you.
Right.
Like there's so many systems out there. I relate to you, like heavy color blocking with all of the different stuff that's coming at me every single day. Those colors aren't going to mean anything. What means something to me is repetition and blocking. I have time blocking in my calendar, and it's shared with the team and with the office management staff. So specifically Kevin, Pamela, they all see it. The team doesn't necessarily see it. They check in with Pamela and then they plug themselves in. But the point is, there is a rhythm to the routine. So 5 o'clock, get up. You're going to, for me, I feel better about going into my workout if I'm checking email first. So the basics, checking your email, working out, when you eat, when you sleep, when you're going to do the hop or whatever calls you need to make in whatever work you do, having that section of time layered into your day so it's repetitive, there's a routine to it, brings a sense of clarity to your entire work week. And it makes it easier for you to chillax at night when you want to be present with your family, with your daughter, with your son, with your spouse, with yourself. Like you just want to have some downtime and clear your mind.
You want to be able to watch TV or watch a movie on Netflix and not feel guilty about doing it.
Yeah.
You want to know that you've got that time to do that.
Absolutely. It's absolutely critical. Absolutely. And in fact, we're going into our team retreat next weekend, and it will be kind of closing the loop with Kevin on that when we're doing our vision boards for the year. And that will be part of it. Like we're going to have those schedules locked and loaded. Like it's going to be rhythm in our brains where everyone, however they do it, they know exactly what that day looks like and what they're doing when you've got a schedule in front of you for 3 months and when cheer is going to be happening, that for the next 3 months, this is when I'm going to be running my open houses, or this is when I'm going to be in front of my clients, or, we talk about the randomness of our clients' schedules. Well, 9 o'clock in the morning may not work. So you throw out options that do. So you're not driving your schedule. They're not driving your schedule, in other words. That's the big takeaway there. I love that.
And one of the things that I have heard from numerous people that I think is really valuable is when you're scheduling things, you can schedule appointments with yourself, and you can tell people, I'm sorry, I can't do it at that time. I have something booked at that time. They don't have to know that what it is that's booked is you actually sitting in front of your computer and getting some work done.
Yeah.
And you have to preserve that, because
Yeah,
if
you do.
don't, it can easily disappear.
Absolutely. And the busier you get and the more people you open your life to, the more important it is.
Yeah.
Or else, then what's the point, right? The whole point of this is clarity, having a better life, being able to spend time with family and your friends, being able to enjoy life. So the busier you become as an individual doing whatever it is you're doing, getting to the finish line and whatever that is and taking the pain out of it is the purpose of these conversations, to help motivate people to do that. And time management is at the very beginning of that conversation for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as you planned out your year, I always say to the team, you got to find time for the vacay and, the downtime. We all get, sick, get a cold, get bronchitis like I did in the end of the year, whatever it might be, planning those vacations. So what is your big takeaway for 2023 and where you want to go? And when are you doing it? It better be in the calendar.
You mean vacation?
Yeah. Where are you going to go?
I haven't figured that out yet. I know because of some family things that there will be inevitably some trips to the San Francisco Bay Area, because that's where my family is.
Yep.
And I'm also grateful that that's where my family
is. I know.
that going
Northern California, baby.
Going home for Christmas means like going to some place that's actually not
snow,
not 0 degrees with a foot of snow
or more right now.
But no, my daughter and I have talked about going somewhere. We've done a lot of Disney trips in the last few years, and she's almost 16. She's like, no more Disney. And I'm like, but I love going to Disney. Oh. But I also want to have, before she graduates from high school and goes away, I want to have opportunities to take her other places.
Yeah, absolutely.
So she's really into cities right now. She wants to see Seattle. She wants to see New York. And
fun.
And
wouldn't that be great?
I think some kind of more urban exploration, I think
future. That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. So since we're doing this, you'll have to put a little message out there to everybody on social and have everybody throw out ideas.
Absolutely.
To you, because then they can help you schedule the itinerary. First, you pick the city, and then I love getting the intel. Like, people have these little boutique places, like you go to Soho in New York, and there's this fabulous cafe on the corner and this little darling art shop. I love Soho, by the way. So fabulous.
I like New York City.
I think you should go to New York.
Yeah, New York would be fun.
My mother would help you plan that trip. She knows every single inch of Manhattan, literally. It's so great, so fabulous. So what are you most excited about? We've just started the new year. 2023 is at your fingertips. There's going to be so much awesomeness this year. What is your aha moment coming off of 2022, and what are you most excited about for 2023?
I'm excited about sort of this moment. I do feel like there's sort of new momentum, and I'm feeling a lot less anxious about. I've been thinking now that I've been in the business for 3 years, and I've been on the team for a year and a half. I feel like I'm getting a much better sense of how I can be productive and how I can help the most people and be in communication and with the most people and helping them get where they need to be. And I love working with clients and I love it's back to the stories. I love hearing their life stories.
Yeah.
I love knowing why they're looking and where they're headed and who's involved and all that kind of stuff. So the more people that I can be involved with in that way, that feeds me. It goes back to, we've had these conversations about how it's similar to the teaching experience. And, especially working as a college professor, your role really is to meet these students and find out who they are, especially because I worked at a very small school where I knew all my students really well. And so much of what it was getting to know these students and many times their families and figure out where they needed to get over those 4 years and helping them get there. And maybe they thought their major was going to be something, but maybe it really needed to be something else. And
I love
finding out what classes work for them and that kind of thing. And it's the same thing with working for clients. It's
true.
It's meeting them, finding out maybe they thought they were going to move into a single family home, but lo and behold, we end up buying them a condo in downtown Minneapolis, which happened. And it's really just listening carefully and helping them navigate what works for them so that they, end up in the right place.
I love that. Yeah. But that's the best part of this business is the passion behind helping people navigate their story, because they most of the time, they kind of know where they're wanting to go, but they need somebody to lead them to understand it. Like, what does this really look like? And oftentimes your role and any of our roles who really love this work, we are helping them open that door, and it's like an aha moment. Like, that's what I want. That's where I want to be.
Right.
And that's the best part of the work that we do every day. I love that.
It usually clicks when people find the right house. Then you just kind of walk. And I personally had that experience.
Yeah.
And it's just so exciting when somebody like walks into a house and within 5 minutes, just this is the right house.
I was just talking to somebody who's looking at joining the team yesterday, and I thought this was so cool. And we'll leave everybody with this little note, because I think it was so inspiring for anything that any of us do. Like, if you're looking for clarity on is this what I want? So she would take a client into a home and they fall in love with it. They love it. And she says, this is the one. This is where you're supposed to be. We're going to take a picture of you in front of this house right now. We're going to present an offer. This is where you're going to move. This is your home.
That's a great idea. I love the taking a
picture
idea.
I love it. And every single time she's done it, it's happened for them. Every single time that they've put that in the universe, that's for anything, right? You have such clarity of what you want for the end game that you sit there and say, this is what it's going to be. This is what I'm going to do. And you make it happen. It just happens for you. That's the takeaway for Elizabeth, I think. I've been watching you. You're just a dynamo, honey. You are going to have an amazing year. You have an amazing future in real estate. I feel honored to have you on the team. And I'm so excited to interview you again mid-year and hear about all your success stories.
I would be happy to do that.
Awesome, girl. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.